Breathing.
Ooh, that was quick, Matt. Got right in there. You are first. It's doing pretty good. Got on my little chat device here. Stop falling off the table. Your ball. Over to live chat. Better pop it out. So how are you doing today? And Joe is number 2.
Clarence and clear is like.
Pretty girls walk like. Pretty girls walk like. Pretty girls walk like.
It's funny how it goes back in a loop. That is not what I want you to do. Pause that and get that open. I'm doing all right. My eyes are starting to bug me again. I had to take some Advil. I couldn't go to sleep. As long as it doesn't happen too frequently, that's okay. But if it happens too frequently, it becomes a problem because, you know, taking too much Advil is also dangerous. It's annoying. And it's all the cat's fault. Cats are evil, so it's all their fault. You're number 3! Not doing too bad. Looks like winter's gonna thrash us one more time before letting us go. They're calling for accumulation this weekend, but with temperatures in the 60s, it ain't gonna last long. She's doing okay. 70 already. Wow. That's incredible. All I know is we got incredibly lucky. Since they stole all my fuel, I have no backup heat source. But this winter was so mild that the little 12,000 BTU mini split was enough to keep this place, you know, reasonably comfortable. We got very lucky. What are they looking at? I mean, we're March. We should be dead of winter. And yet we're looking at 53, 54. Now Friday's going to be 38 and then 42, but then right back up 45, 46, 55. So yeah, very, very lucky. We are very fortunate. Ooh, produce pickup today. Looking forward to that. $80, wow. Hopefully we do get some rain though, because I mean we're March and we're already getting red flag days. You see, when it's cold at night, it's no big deal as long as it's warm during the day. As long as it hits 40s or 50s during the day, we're good. Because if we're hitting 40s or 50s, that means the sun's out, and if the sun's out, the house is heating up. Then, because of the low humidity, there's not a whole lot to sap the heat out of the house, and so even if it's freezing at night, we hit 50 during the day. It's not uncomfortable. It's like 2 or 3 in the morning. Now you add in the mini split running, and we're fine. So as long as it stays like that, we're good. Obviously, I'll have to beef up security around my fuel. So probably the first mini shed I build will be fuel storage. Although I might buy a metal shed for that. I can get them for $100, roughly $150. Get a little 4x3 or 5x4 foot metal shed. Someone took all my fuel. Some guy came onto my property and took $1,000 worth of diesel, kerosene, and propane. All my propane tanks, everything. Took it all in one shot. And of course, just by pure happenstance, the only camera that had a view was the solar camera out in the driveway, and all I could see is the shadow of the guy going by. Yep, I backed up out of the driveway one day, and I looked over, and I was like, where's my gas tanks? And I was like, no fucking way. I get out of the car. I have a, you know how you have those big, flat top cargo trolleys at Home Depot? They have the two kinds. They have the kind with the rails so you can put the lumber in between. And then they have just the big flat ones. Well, I have a big flat one. And it's plastic, though. It's metal frame plastic. Not as heavy duty as the one at Home Depot. I'd love to have a Home Depot cart. But it's almost as big. So I brought all of my fuel from the backyard. I mean, I'm not dumb enough to leave my fuel lying around most times. But I was getting ready to set up my backup heat for the wintertime. So what I do is I have a 5-gallon cube. It's a fuel tank. It's a cube. And so it stacks and sits, doesn't tip over. So what I was getting ready to do is I brought all my fuel tanks around to the front of the house because I was going to set up a 55-gallon drum at the front of the house underneath the carport. And I was getting ready to pour all of those fuel tanks into the 55-gallon drum. And then I have a barrel pump, and I have that 5-gallon quad cube fuel tank. What I would do is I'd come out front, fill up the 5-gallon tank with the 55-gallon tank in the drum barrel, and then I could take that inside and use the little electric pump to fill up the kerosene heater. And I hadn't gotten around to that yet. I was still draining off the water that had gotten in the barrel. I didn't want contamination with the fuel, and so the fuel was just sitting there on top of my cart. And I back out of the driveway, and it's all gone. I mean, we're talking like 45 gallons of kerosene. That's like that's almost $400 in kerosene. Plus the tanks. There was what was it? 6 5-gallon tanks and a 15-gallon caddy. And one of those 15-gallon caddies with a little pump on it. Took it all. And he took all my except for the ones that were hidden, he took all my propane tanks, including my favorite propane tank. I had a double-sized barbecue propane tank. So instead of a 20-gallon and a 40-gallon, I had a pair of those. It's great for the barbecue because that one 40-gallon tank is enough to go all summer. I never have to refill it. And they took all my propane tanks, everything. Even took my ratchet straps that were in the trailer. Thankfully, they didn't take the trailer. But even took my ratchet straps. I guess he had to strap down the tanks. Fucking asshole. If I could catch him, I'd eat him. But and then talk about another scare. Yesterday. Was yesterday? Yes. No, Monday. Monday, I took Rochelle into Albuquerque for her dentist appointment to get her plate made. And the dentist was a douche knuckle and didn't tell us that her appointment was actually 3 separate appointments spread out over 7 hours. So we had to sit there in the car for 7 hours, from the 7 o'clock in the morning appointment, and then sit there and doze off in the parking lot until the 10:30 appointment, and then sit there and doze off in the parking lot until the 2 o'clock appointment. You think maybe you could have told me about that? I mean, at the minimum, I could have claimed 3 trips of mileage. That alone cost me $60 that I could have made from the insurance company. And he didn't tell us that, so we just had to sit there. I mean, I couldn't afford to drive back and forth. It's an hour-long drive. That's nuts. It's like, Doug, you just drop this on people when they show up? Like, that's not right, man. I was like, we're an hour away. So we got to sit here in your parking lot. Because I'm certainly not going to drive home just to spend a half an hour at home and then drive back. I'm certainly not going to do that. But people are ignorant of other people's needs sometimes, even basic needs like that. But anyway, one of my friends who watches the stream, Ron, we were playing around with our Wise cameras, and I had forgot that one of my Wise cameras was connected, sharing with him, which I still have to figure out how to turn that off. And he buzzes me and says, "Hey, there's somebody in your yard, right?" And I'm like, "What do you mean there's somebody in my yard?" Yeah, sure enough, some scumbag was in my goddamn yard, scoping out my house. I'll show you. Goes. So this douchebag was slinking around my house. Yeah. That asshole definitely does not belong there. So when I came back, we were driving around town looking for him because I was going to make dinner out of him. Like, motherfucker, I got 3 extra freezers now. Don't fuck with me. That's exactly what it looks like. I couldn't find anything missing. Nothing obvious was missing. So he was probably looking for scrap or tools. Easy to steal and sell. And I don't keep that kind of stuff exposed. That stuff is locked away. But, yeah, scumbags, man. That's my backyard. And my backyard's, 200 feet off the road. So there's no accidental there, He walked in front of every camera except the camera at the front door. So he walked in front of every camera he shouldn't have been anywhere near and avoided the one camera he would have a legitimate reason to be in front of. So, yeah, definitely a scumbag looking to do something. And my concern is that he might be watching my house because I work from home. Okay? So, except him walking by in pure coincidence, how the hell did he know I wasn't home on that one day? On that one particular day, he knew I wasn't home? Yeah, I'm wondering if he's living across the street and he's watching when I'm here. Scumbag piece of shit. I wonder if that's the same piece of shit who stole my fuel. That would explain why he might come back. He would know that. Because my property is pretty much off the... Most people around here, if this is their property, it's usually a rectangle. Here's the road and here's their house. Well, I got fortunate, my property, like, here's the road and here's my house all the way back here, halfway back on the property. So my house sits in the middle of my property instead of the front of my property. So I have a substantial amount of driveway space between my house and the road. And I'm one of the few properties that's covered in trees. And so just simply driving by my house, you just see trees and a glimpse of the house between the trees. And So I'm wondering if he's the one who stole my fuel and he saw that I got a bunch of stuff out there and he came back to see if there's anything else he could take. He was just waiting for my car not to be there. Yeah, scumbag. If I catch him, I'm going to hurt him. I'm not going to kill him. I'll use rock salt. I'll scare Jesus back into him. I don't believe in Jesus, but I'll scare Jesus into him. Hey, Joe. Like, come here. Let's experiment. Ooh, even better. I got my Fat Max. Oh, yeah. I could tune him up real good with that. What are you going to do? To me, you call this dumb, I don't care, but come here, you. I am thirsty. Yeah. Although I'm gonna have to run power down the driveway. Because I mean I know how to set up a trap, but I'd rather. Oh, Moriarty, nice. I do have cameras, that's how I know what happened. But people think cameras are this magical thing that, well, thieves are stopped and we get to catch them. No. All cameras do is, allow you to rewatch your suffering over and over again. That's all cameras do. They just let you watch your suffering over and over again. Because it's not going to stop the thieves, and it's not going to help the police. I mean, this is 2 1080p clips of this scumbag. I hate when certain things don't appear on the replay. I mean, this is all you get. That's it. Guy in a green hoodie. It doesn't really get you all that much. And here's the backyard. Same guy. This is behind my house now. Okay, so that's security cams are a nice thing, but they don't actually stop the crime, and they don't actually do anything to help you capture the criminals. The dog. Yeah, the cats would love that. So what security cams do allow you to do is first of all, they alert you to the fact that you do have a problem. And second of all, they help you prepare for the problem in the future. They alert you, okay, you have somebody who's scoping out your house, who's skulking around your yard. So now go out there, look at all the places where he stopped, if he stops anywhere and looks at anything specific, see what kind of stuff he's looking at and take care of it, put it away, maybe reposition the cameras, maybe alert you to the fact that you have a blind spot where you need cameras. But one of the biggest problems is that a security camera system that's actually going to help you stop criminals, you need like 30 cameras. Because when you set up cameras for maximum coverage. So, for example, how would I describe this? Let's say this is your property. Okay, so right now, what you saw was this camera right here, looking out, right? And that's by my bedroom window. And then, of course, I have another camera here at the front door looking out. Okay? I have a camera on the side here looking at the side of the house, which is interesting. I think it got unplugged again. I gotta make a 3D printed cover from Michelle's outlet because the cats like fucking with the USB cable that goes to that camera in her bedroom, and so they end up pulling the USB. It's got a little USB dongle or something like this. Got something like this and a USB plug. And the cats can't resist fucking with the wire, and they pull the wire out of the wall. So that camera's constantly getting unplugged. I don't have one going this way. And then, of course, in the backyard, I have 2 cameras. That's to give me basically 360 coverage. Well, the problem is 360 coverage gets you this. There's the guy walking by. What you just saw on the camera. That's sure. You now know there was somebody there, and that's all you know. He's got a green hoodie, and he's about 5'4" tall. Okay, so that's 40% of the population. That's why he put on a hoodie. That's why he put on gloves, because it makes him anonymous. And now, if you have a repeat offender, well, if they get in the home, the cats will shred them. No, they won't. They'll just hide. If anybody besides me and Michelle steps foot in this house, the cats are gone. They find a hole somewhere and they hide. But yeah, I can't afford a dog. I mean, if you're gonna have a pet, you have to take care of the pet, and I can't afford a dog. But well, my primary problem, as you can see in the video, is I have crap exposed outside. Yeah. No, it's not that. I mean, I don't know the neighbors next door, but they're a family, and nobody like that's there. My other neighbor next door is he's confined to a mobility scooter. He's missing one leg, and his other leg's not working so great right now, so he ain't doing it. And the guy across the street's an Iranian family. They do have a couple of kids that are shady as F, but they're bigger, older kids. They're not a young guy like this, short guy like this. But there is Pinion Loop. There's a couple of people there who are drug users, maybe. I don't know. But Robert did see a guy in a hoodie walking down the street. So it's probably the same guy leaving my property and continuing down the street. I mean, a fence would solve a lot of this, but I hate fences. I mean, I don't mind fences around the sides and back of the property because it helps you figure out where your property starts and stops. But I don't like fencing off my property. I'm trying to avoid doing that. First of all, I can't afford it, but second of all, I hate doing that. But you do what you do with video. Okay, so the first thing I did was, you don't even bother. You don't even bother calling the police. The police are useless, and that's not even something. That's not even a diss on the police. I mean, think about it. I'm going to show the police the video of a random anonymous person wearing a hoodie who is a build and a height that would cover 40% of the population. What can the police do? Nothing. There's nothing the police can do. Even bothering them is a waste of time. If something actually comes up missing, sure, it kind of makes sense to file a report in case they stop a guy and the cop happened to have read that report and he notices, hey, this guy has that stuff. It helps you create a paper trail to be able to nail these people when they do eventually get caught or shot. But overall, calling the police is useless. But what I did do is alert my neighbors. So neighbors on both sides of me, I haven't told them yet, but I got to tell them. And neighbor across the street, let them know so that they're on alert and watching for the guy. And of course, I posted the video to next door. Trust me, next door is full of nosy bodies. Next door is all the borderline Karens who just love complaining about anything. And most of these, it's retired people who have nothing better to do. It's they're not bad people. They can get a little overzealous, but they're not bad people. And once you get to know them, they're fine. For the most part. But boy, do they love gossip. And so, of course, I posted the next door with the video. So now everybody on the street, the streets around us, is aware that there's some scumbag, slinking around people's homes. And so more people will keep an eye on them. And that's how you stop this kind of thing, for the most part. And also, you improve your own security. I thought you just posted GoFundMe and people not picking doll poop on next door. Oh. Oh, I see what you mean. You thought that's what people do at Nextdoor. No, we got a pretty decent community on Nextdoor. The problem is, as with any group, as with any forum, inevitably politics gets into the fray. It's just inevitable. I mean, our lives revolve around politics to some extent. So inevitably it's going to come up in discussion. And the problem is the censorship on Nextdoor is a huge turnoff. It just makes you not want to be there sometimes. Especially when, now, I mean, if a fight gets heated and you've got people arguing and throwing names at each other, okay, I get it. You shut down that thread. Even though that pisses people off, what can you do? Let a thermonuclear war start? But what pisses me off is when you have heavy-handed censorship, such as being banned for 12 days, and the only thing you did was repeat back to the other person the exact words they directed at you. Not even curse words or anything. You just repeat back the exact words they used for you. So my comment got censored, but his didn't. Same words. You know, that kind of stuff just pisses you off and makes you not want to be there. So the trick with a thing like Nextdoor is, first, you need to remember, no matter how much that stupid dipshit, that stupid moronic conservative idiot, that stupid moronic liberal twat, no matter how much you hate what they're saying, you need to remember, these people are your neighbors. Literally, you live within a couple of miles of every person in that group. Hey, Colin, how you doing today? So it's important to remember, live within, 3 or 4 miles of every single person you're talking to on Nextdoor. That's the whole point of Nextdoor. That's why you have to verify your address and you get a little postcard in the mail. It's to make sure you can't just join a random group. You can only join the group where you actually have a house, where you actually live. And so it's important to remember that the veil of anonymity that the internet gives you can make people say things they wouldn't say to your face in person. Some people would. Some people are just, they're buckaroo banzai across the 8th dimension kind of people. But most people are decent people. Most people aren't scumbags. And it's important to remember that these are your neighbors. And just that alone, just hammering that into your skull over and over, this is my neighbor, this is my neighbor, this is my neighbor, these are my neighbors. Just doing that makes it a lot easier to absorb a lot of this stuff. You just shrug it off. It's like if you're walking, if you go to Denny's and you hear some of your neighbors having a boisterous conversation about Trump or Biden, do you walk up to them saying, "You're an idiot, you're wrong"? No, of course not. You mind your business and you keep walking. But no, the point is there's etiquette. All right, you just don't do that. We don't. It's impolite. We do not do that in society. And so, if you start treating Nextdoor more like you walking by someone at the local Walmart or cafe or the local Juno's or the local pizza barn, and you just happen to walk by hearing this conversation, what would you do in that situation? Do the same thing on Nextdoor. If you start to treat it like that, it gets a lot easier. And now, there's going to be those discussions that, the people get heated. And the problem is, as a human being, we want to make our opinion known. We want to correct a perceived injustice. We want to right a perceived wrong. And we have this craving to do that. And that's what sucks you into those nasty discussions. If you just stay away from those, it's very hard. Trust me. People say, "Oh, how hard can it be?" Just don't click on it. It's hard because you know what they're saying. You know what's going on there, and you want to correct it. But you just gotta let it go. Just scroll on by. Okay? Just pretend that they're sitting at a table at Pizza Barn. Would I walk up to them and start yelling at them for what they're saying? No, I would not. So don't do it here. if you can get that into your head, suddenly, my throat is dry. You rule the restaurant. Well, the thing is, when you're on the internet, you can say, you know, I'll come over there and I'll bitch slap your ass. But you're not going to say that. What happened here? You're not going to say that in person. Because if you came up to me and said, I'll bitch slap your ass in person, well, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to bitch slap your ass right there in front of the entire restaurant staff. It's going to be a... Oh, really? What were you going to do? As the cops pull me off you. Okay, so we just don't do that in real life. Okay? So if you can train yourself to treat next door as if it's an in-person encounter at a local cafe or restaurant or store. If you can... today they're okay. I took Advil yesterday. I had to. They were getting bad enough that I was having trouble sleeping again. So I had to take some Advil. I got to talk to the doctor about the antibacterial drops. To see, you know, obviously obviously you don't want to continuously take antibacterial drops because eventually the bacteria will become resistant to that antibacterial. So what I got to talk to him about is, you know, when it gets really, really bad and I just have to do something, and if the Advil doesn't work on that particular occasion, I'll have to take the drops. So I have to ask him what is the minimum number of days I should take them. Because if you take them for too short a number of days, oddly enough, bacterial-resistant critters come about from you not completing the medical cycle. And some of the bacteria survives the encounter. So what usually happens is people will take an antibacterial, they get better, and they stop taking it. Well, the problem is you still have the bacteria. You've just reduced the colony to the point where it's not bothering you anymore. But now the colony comes back stronger. So you have to finish the entire regimen so that you actually kill all the bacteria. And if there's no survivors, then there's no resistant bacteria. So I got to talk to him about what is the minimum number of days I should use it to make sure I've killed everything so that I reduce the likelihood of developing resistant critters. And I also need to talk to the ophthalmologist about the steroid drops, because those work almost instantly. The relief is almost immediate. And by the next day, my eyes are perfect. Looks like I'm having network trouble. Network connection is glitching. There we go. Where's my bandwidth? Stream analytics. Why isn't it showing me my bandwidth? It should be showing me my bandwidth. Stream health. This is excellent. Looks okay, but I don't see my. Usually I can see my. Oh, that's going to be in OBS. Yeah, 4,000 kilobit per second, so we should be okay. I saw a glitch and I wanted to make sure it wasn't something on my end. Yeah, they get better pretty quickly. Once the Advil's a little bit slower than the drops. I'm assuming what the Advil's doing is it's constricting the blood vessels, and so it stops leaking pus. It's pus. What's happening is my eyes are leaking pus, because they're reacting to the inflammation. And that pus is an irritant, a really bad irritant, and it tears up my skin. And of course, then I dry my skin out by continuously washing my eyes, trying to get rid of the pus, and that just dries the skin out faster. And eventually, it gets so bad I can't go to sleep. Like I'll literally be up all night. I can't fall asleep. It's weird too. There's no pain. There's no like pain or stab or cut or jab. There's no pain. It's Imagine you're in bed trying to go to sleep, and every couple of minutes or a couple of seconds, someone just goes. Imagine someone does that to you while you're trying to sleep. It doesn't hurt, but you can't go to sleep. That's what happens to my eyes. They get irritated. They don't really hurt. They ache a little. Well, actually, the eyes never ache. It's the skin around the eyes. And but it's just enough stimulation that I can't fall asleep. So eventually I just have to take the Advil. And that after about 6-7 hours, the Advil does its thing and it starts to get better pretty quickly. But it's temporary. Once the Advil wears off, a few days later, the cycle starts again. So the steroids work immediately, and they make it completely rescind the problem. But only while I'm taking the steroid drops. And the problem is, steroid drops will make me blind. Because the steroid drops will eventually increase the interocular pressure inside the eyeball, and that will cause me to get glaucoma, and of course glaucoma will make me blind. So what I got to talk to the ophthalmologist and find out, is that consistent or cumulative? Meaning, if I keep taking the drops, obviously that's going to happen. But if I stop taking the drops, does the problem completely reset? So, for example, if I use the drops, 2 days a month, will that cause a problem? Is there a minimum threshold at which I can safely use this and not cause intraocular pressure, and not cause glaucoma, and not cause blindness? Is there a minimum threshold that I can pass that, okay, use it this often, you're fine. Use it more than this often, you're not fine. So, use it every day, you have a problem. Use it every other day, you have a problem. How about once a week? How about once every 2 weeks? How about once a month? How much of a gap? First of all, when you stop using it, does the problem reset? Or every time you use it, you move up a notch, and that notch never goes back? Like mercury poisoning. Mercury poisoning is cumulative. So even if you stop taking on the mercury, you've still got the mercury that you got in your body already. And when you expose yourself to mercury again, you're not starting from zero. You're starting from the accumulation you already had. So do the drops work like that? Is it a cumulative problem where if I use it so many times, no matter how far apart between uses, I'm going to have a problem? Or does the problem completely reset if I stop using it? If it completely resets, how much of a gap do I need to make sure it completely resets? Because it'd be nice to have that as like my last ditch. The Advil's not working, the antibacterial's not working, and I've got something important this weekend that I have to do, and I need to get some sleep. Can I take the drops once? 2 drops in the morning, 2 drops at night, and then stop. Would that be safe? I don't know. I gotta find out. But they have a new version of these batteries with the USB-C plug instead of a micro USB. And it annoys me so much because they're so goddamn expensive, even though it's the same damn battery, just with a different plug. I keep waiting for the knockoffs to come out so I can get the USB-C version. But I'm not paying $46 a piece. The trick is I need to find, moisturizer, lubricant, something around the eyes. I need to try something that's eye safe. And right now I can't afford to buy anything, so I'm not going to try anything. For now, maybe the Advil's a solution. I got to see how long does this solve my problem, because I'm pretty sure if I take Advil once a week, it's not going to cause me a problem. Every day, yeah, it's going to cause you a problem, but once a week, not a problem. So maybe that'll be the solution. But the problem is I'm worried that the Advil will eventually stop working. I don't know the biomechanics about how that works. I know that your body can develop a tolerance. And does that apply here? I don't know. It depends on the mechanics of what the Advil is doing to fix my problem. And I'm afraid to take it too often and develop a resistance, and then I'm really up shit's creek. But anyway, with the next door thing, if you can get your mind wrapped around the concept that next door is your neighbors and think of it as being in person instead of online, meaning you have to dismantle your own perceived veil of anonymity, it's a lot easier to deal with. I post pictures of my meals. I post pictures of the sunset. You know, we talk about the latest town hall meeting. You know, and I do my best to avoid discussions where politics enters the equation. If you can just avoid those, next door is a much more pleasant experience. The people who have a bad experience with next door are the people who have poor self-control and they can't stop themselves from getting into those conversations. And of course, they keep getting in trouble because they get into those conversations. Those conversations turn into grenade lobbing events. And of course, you toss enough grenades, you're going to get burnt. So people who have poor self-control and can't avoid involving themselves in those discussions, those people are not going to enjoy next door. The rest of us, here's a picture of my cat. Here's a nice sunset. You know, here's the latest veggie haul I got and the meal I made with it. And you know, here's the latest scumbag who was stalking around my backyard who shouldn't be there. Hey, I found this abandoned cat. Whose cat is this? You know, you stick to that kind of stuff, and suddenly next door's a lot more pleasant. Like what's there? I'll give you an example. I'll show you. So if you, I can show you. Here we go. So here's my next door. Now this is someone talking about a pothole on a road. Again, talking about traffic. You know, a lot of this is people venting. You know, normally you have no avenue to vent when someone cuts you off or someone runs you off the road. This gives people an avenue to vent. People have a bad experience at a local establishment, they're going to show up here. Advertisement. Someone asking, you know, for a good local tax accountant. Someone selling tamales. You know, if you just stick to this kind of stuff, you can see the kind of stuff that's happening near me. Those turkeys are awesome. Or are they peahens? These are turkeys? Oh, these aren't turkeys. What are these? I don't know what they are. I'm assuming these guys are the peahens. Peacocks? Are these peacocks? These might be peacocks. People selling stuff. Talking about them. You see here, this kind of stuff. People talking about their meal they're making. People posting nice pictures of a sunset. If you just, most of Nextdoor is that. That's what most of Nextdoor is. People posting the latest food, the guy, people complaining about the guy, people preaching. You see that a lot. There's actually not all that much garbage on Nextdoor, but the garbage tends to be the more addictive. If you just avoid the garbage, you'll be much better off. Just stay away from it. When you see that heated, when that discussion starts to go political, resist the temptation to snipe back and just leave the discussion. Just leave. That's all. Just go away and leave it alone. That's a load of shit. They have no legal authority to do that. Congress literally lacks the legal authority to ban a social media service from operating in the country. That's a direct violation of the First Amendment. Literally, it's a direct violation of the First Amendment. I mean, the First Amendment doesn't say Congress can't infringe, or Congress can't violate, or Congress can't revoke your rights. It literally says Congress shall make no law. None whatsoever. It doesn't matter if it's good for the people. It doesn't matter if it gets pedophiles out of the arena. It doesn't matter if it's for the children. What part of Congress shall make no law is unclear. You think people aren't just going to sideload TikTok if you do somehow manage to prevent it from showing up on the Play stores? Give me a break. I mean, it's stupidity. I will intentionally use TikTok more if they try. Okay, I'll make it a point to use it more, and I'll flaunt it. Because they have no legal authority. This is not Europe, where the government decides what goes on and the citizens are subjects of the government. That's not how U.S. law and government are supposed to work. It's the opposite in the U.S. You know, Congress is the subjects to do their job. And we've told them, hands off anything dealing with free speech. Anything at all. Doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's good. It doesn't matter if it's only going after bad guys. You're not allowed to. If it has anything whatsoever to do with freedom of speech, even if it's bad freedom of speech, hands off. You're not allowed to touch it. As if that would make any difference to the Chinese government. Here's the thing that, you know, people saying, I love how my hair just goes crazy. It's just, my hair is just like going. It doesn't matter. It's freedom of speech. TikTok is the epitome of freedom of speech. It is speech. You know, the First Amendment doesn't say Congress shall make no law regarding good speech, but they're allowed to go after criminals for speech. That's not what it says. The First Amendment is what's called an absolute. There's no gray. There's no ambiguity. Congress shall make no law. It doesn't say Congress shall only make good law, but you can make bad law. It says Congress shall make no law. That means you can't make laws regarding newspaper speech, or movie speech, or TV speech, or me beeping my horn speech. You can't make laws regarding bad speech, villainous speech, evil speech, or, you know, what do you call it when you're against the government? What do you call that? There's like a particular word they use. I forgot it. Rebellious speech, evil speech, bad people speech. It doesn't matter. Shall make no law. Now, why would they put those words in there? Why would they make it so that we have to accept the good and the bad together? Well, it's very simple. Because the moment you attempt to define this speech is good, this speech is bad, freedom of speech ceases to exist. And now your freedom of speech is defined by whoever makes the lists of good speech, bad speech. Okay? And all it takes is a shift in the whims of, I mean, look at our society today. I mean, you want to see an example of why this is bad? This is easy. The last election. The last election is the crowning example of why this is bad. We have 240 million eligible voters in this country. Approximately, roughly, I'm rounding the numbers here, okay? Approximately 80 million people voted for a useless, senile meat sack who spent 47 years in Congress accomplishing absolutely nothing, who currently sits in the Oval Office and couldn't vote himself or decree himself or executive order himself out of a wet paper bag. The guy, there isn't 2 brain cells left in his skull to rub together to create a coherent thought. And 80 million people voted him into office, 1/3 of the voting population. And then you have another 80 million people who vote 1/3 of the population again, okay? Another 80 million people who voted for a sociopathic, psychotic windbag who has an ego larger than a black hole, who increased our national debt by 30% before COVID, okay? Who gave trillions of dollars away to the corporations and the rich people in the country, who created a tax cut bill with a trap card built into it so that if he didn't get reelected, your taxes went up because now he's not there to extend the tax law. He did that on purpose. His entire life has been founded on using bankruptcy to get out of paying his debts and screw all of his creditors and the people he stole from. He's a whack job, sociopathic, psychotic, egotistical, narcissistic criminal. And 80 million people voted for him. His name's Donald Trump. So you have the two worst possible, least valid, least eligible candidates, Donald Trump and Joe Biden, in the history of the country, and 160 million people voted for them. Now do you understand why it says, shall make no law? Because people are stupid. Especially when they get in tribes of groups of people. I mean, seriously. If the last election is not the announcement to the world that the United States is solidly in its idiocracy phase, and, you know, the whole entire world is laughing at us. We are the joke, we are the laughing stock, we are the clowns of planet Earth, but they laugh quietly behind our backs because we have the largest goddamn military the world has ever known, with 800 military bases all over the planet, and no one wants America to bring freedom to your country next. The whole entire world is literally shaking in their boots because they know that this ship is sinking, that the shot across the bow missed, punctured the hull, and this whole entire ship is sinking, and no one wants to be around when this wild animal that's backed into a corner starts thrashing with its military. Okay? No one wants to be around for that. And so the whole world is shaking in its boots wondering what the fuck is going to happen when that ship actually starts to sink and the people realize it's sinking. It ain't going to be fun. Oh my God. I know, I've seen people talk about that. It'd be great. Oh, don't get me wrong. I mean, Biden is better than Trump. I'll take a useless, senile meat sack who will have a minimum capacity to actually cause damage over Trump any day. Okay? And if your only choices are Trump or Biden, Biden's the better choice, okay? Because he's so incompetent, he's so senile, he's such a useless meat sack that there's a limit to the amount of damage he can do. Okay? That doesn't mean he's good. That just means he's the lesser of two evils. Oh my God. But you know, if the 80 million people who didn't vote for Biden and Trump, and the 80 million people who did vote for Biden, if even half of those people got together with the 80 million people who voted some other person, and they all voted some other person, I mean, literally, you could take a dart and throw a dart at a map of the U.S. blindfolded, travel to whatever city is closest to that dart, and go, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, you're president. I don't care who you are, you're getting in the Oval Office, you're president. And we'd be better off. I mean, I'm laughing so much because it's hysterical. You can't make this stuff up. You know, if I were to go back 100 years and hand our scholars a transcript of what's happening to the country today, they'd look at you like you had horns growing out of your head or flowers growing out of your eyeballs. Like, this is crazy fiction. Why would you even write this? No, that's real. That actually happens. They burn you at the stake. You have to be nuts. You must be from some wacko alternate dimension Earth. There's no way that could be real. And that's us today. It's real. Or maybe it's not. Maybe we'll wake up tomorrow in the Matrix and realize, oh yeah, it was really just a bad joke. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. Okay. See you at 2 o'clock. Yeah, I know. Mine's not ready either. Okay. Not as good as 50-cent corn dogs, but still not bad. But, I mean... Of course I'm going to vote. You got no right to complain if you're not going to vote. And there's the problem, is that we've lost the right to vote. Because we've allowed the creation of political parties should be outlawed. Should not be allowed to establish political parties. Political parties are tools of the devil, so to speak. No good can come from a political party. Never. There's no such thing as a good outcome from a political party. Because the thing that I describe to people that is so hard for people to understand, if they understood it, they'd understand why the things I say make sense. Power does not corrupt. This whole philosophy of power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely is a fiction. It's bullshit. That's not how the world works, right? This thing's got power in it. Power is an inanimate object. Power has no will. It has no intent. It has no desires. It's not good. It's not bad. It's not evil. It's not heavenly. It's just not how that works. Anybody who thinks power can do anything as far as decision making and intent, they got screws loose. Okay? They were educated poorly. The correct way to look at power and the problem of power is to flip the objects in that phrase. Okay? Power does not corrupt. Corruption seeks power. That's how you have to say it. That's how you have to think it. That's how you have to understand it. Until you can understand that phrase, you're going to have difficulty fixing this kind of problem or understanding how to fix this kind of problem. Hey, Maker Viking, how you doing? I haven't seen you in a while. Corruption seeks power. People who are corrupt, they don't become corrupt, they are corrupt. Okay, people with corrupt intentions, with evil intentions, seek out the highest level of power they can acquire so that they can enact their evil on as large a group of people as they can. That's important to understand. Political parties allow the accrual of power by diluting population groups into becoming tribal. Political groups take advantage of, you got a cold again? I mean, yeah, technically you can catch a cold multiple times, but it's unusual. It's weird. Usually there's one strain floating around, you get that and you're good. But yeah, if you get exposed to multiple strains, it sucks. So that's the whole reason why the United States was built ground up instead of top down. Okay? Even while the Constitution was being created and ratified, there were multiple parties. One wanted powerful states and a weak central government, and one group wanted a strong central government and weak states. Well, the group that wanted a strong central government, they're wrong. And they're wrong because they failed to understand the concept of corruption seeks power. They thought these people, it's part of the tribalism that we have in our society. It's also it's human nature to you tend to see the things that reinforce what you desire. So you give more credit to the things that support what you already think, and you give less credit to the things that don't support what you already think. And believe it or not, this doesn't make you a bad person. This makes you normal. Okay, this is the way normal people work. The problem is when you have an intelligent entity in that mix who's manipulating that, who's taking advantage of the fact that that's the way you think. The government is the best at distribution needs. There's no question about it. The government is the best at handling public education, the best at handling public transportation, they're the best at handling health care. There's no question the government is the best at all that. Anybody who thinks the government is not the best entity to deal with all that they're not thinking clearly. Okay? But the problem is, you got to give that government the correct blueprint to then be the best at doing those things. So the way that our country was built was the small segments are powerful. And well, think of it this way. Let me give you an example. We did it wrong, of course. The way we're doing it is wrong. Okay, so keep that in mind. The way we are currently handling public education is wrong. But public education is the correct solution. Anybody who doesn't think public education is the correct solution, they got screws loose, or they've been deceived by other corrupt thoughts. Okay, and they don't realize it. Public education is absolutely mandatory. The best thing we ever did was have public education because it raises the intelligence bar for the whole entire country. There's no question that's a good thing. But how do you do it? Well, that's where the small government, weak central government is powerful. Okay? So the idea was, well, we got 50 states. And now this is not something that's in the Constitution, which means it's a state power, not a federal power. Okay? So we let the states handle education. And the idea is you're going to have 50 states, and you have potentially 1 to 50 different ways of handling public education. Now, in theory, in a correctly operating system where the people in charge are there to be public servants, to serve the public, and to make America great again. I hate the fact that that's Trump's catchline because he's a scumbag. Okay? Those people are all going to try to make a public education system that they think is going to be the best. And now, some of them are going to be good, some of them are going to be bad, some of them are going to be mid. Okay? Some of them are going to be meh at best. Right? But the point is, we can now let these 50 experiments run. And we can look back and say, okay, Arizona system, yeah, that didn't work so great. Colorado system, yeah, that didn't work so great. Pennsylvania system, hey, that's actually working pretty good. I don't know whose systems are running good or bad. I'm pulling random states out of my ass, okay? But we can go, yeah, these guys, they're doing pretty good. These guys, they're doing pretty bad. And these guys are kind of meh in the middle. Waterproof, the bottle. The first print of the little 1 pounder, completely waterproof, first print. This water has been in here since last week. Since last Thursday when I printed the bottle. And not 1 drop has come out. That was on the first print. 0.2 millimeter layer, 1 millimeter extrusion, 8 bottom layers, then vase mode. And so the modeling that I did for the cap, the threads, everything remained vase mode compatible correctly, and it is watertight. And here's the one that will be filled with sand. So the sand has a higher density than water, so the sand one is smaller. I do have to make some changes because 1 millimeter. This is a 1 millimeter extrusion. I want it to be nice and strong, not break. The problem I'm going to have is that this is too big. See, it's too big. Well, I mean, you're saying, well, hey, that looks fine to me. Yes, this works fine for me. All right, because I got gigantic bear paws. Okay, but you hand this to an average person, and it's a little on the big side. Now, the average in shape person, no problem. The average person undergoing therapy because they have an issue, they might have a hard time hanging on to something like that. Especially if I even attempt to scale this up. If I scale this up to 3 pounds, this is not going to be manageable. So I actually need to take this and shrink it by half. So this diameter needs to be about 1/2 what it is now. I need basically a teenager to be able to hold on to this without a problem. So think an adult who has very poor muscle control. As long as you have enough bottom layers, enough overlap. I also over extrude the bottom layers. The slicer doesn't let me do it, but on Simplify 3D does let me do it, but not Crucial Slicer. I don't know. It's a good question. I should. It should be within plus or minus 10%. Math is math. 300,000 cubic millimeters is 300,000 cubic millimeters, and water is water, so it should be. But I'll have to actually test that. I did get the bag of sand. It's surprisingly heavy. For its size, it's like, wow, that's really heavy. But I got the $5 for the sand, so I'll be filling that with sand. No, I haven't tried Orca Slicer yet. I'll have to try that. Orca Slicer works with non-bamboo printers. That's probably why it's called Orca Slicer. It's the split that works with everything. Well, here's a good way of bringing this back to 3D printing. So 3D printers are cheap to design and make. You can use off-the-shelf parts. And so you had a whole bunch of manufacturers making a whole bunch of different 3D printers. You had 3D printers that were Mendel-like and polar 3D printers and belt 3D printers and rigid 3x3 extrusion 3D printers and HBOT printers and Cartesian printers and all these different kinds of printers. Nice. I'll have to give that a try. Now, you start producing enough of these 3D printers, you start to get a kind of a picture. You start to create a bell curve of a sort. You realize that these printers work really well, and these printers don't work really well. So you forget about the printers that don't work really well, and you focus on the printers that do work well. And then you look at the printers that do work well, these work really well, but they're very specialized. They work because the belt printer works because the guy needed to print a sword. But for anything else, it wasn't that great. So you take that off the list. The Core XY printer, that works really well, but it's a lot more expensive. It's a lot harder to design. It's a lot harder to build. You take that off the list. And you end up with these Cartesian bedslinger printers. And then you realize, why do these printers over here work so well? And you realize it's because they have these aluminum extrusions that make them crazy stiff. And what you've done is you've basically taken small government doing things a whole bunch of different ways. And then when you let that run for a little while, it's like hit fast forward. Okay, now we see the end result, after 20, 30, 40 years, after 2 generations, 60 years. And we start to realize, okay, these work really well, these don't work really well. Now, once you've done all that work, now in 3D printing, we have simple economic pressure, user demand that pushes people all to that one style of printer because that one style of printer is the most successful. And you end up with the CR10 and the Ender 3 and the Odin and all the clones. They're all the same, really. And the companies that do it best, you got your Creality, you have your Longer, you have your how do I not know? Oh man. I can't remember the names, but anyway, you got these companies who do it better, and they are more successful, and they make more and more of these same printers. Well, that was the same theory we had with government. If we had a bunch of small local governments, they would all try things a slightly different way, and eventually the superior way would make itself known. Arizona's system is doing shit, but Colorado system is doing okay, or Utah system is doing okay, so Arizona will say, okay, let's copy them. Because their system's working better and it costs less money. And so Arizona adopts their system. And pretty soon everybody's doing the same system because this is the system that works the best. This is the point at which the federal government now can step in and say, okay, over the last 50 years, this is apparently the most logical, sane, affordable system that gets the best results. We are now going to adopt this as the default, as the standard by which everything else will be measured. That's when the federal government is supposed to come in and standardize it. And now the federal government can say, yeah, that state there who has a horrible education system, but they're sticking to it because somebody's profiting from it. Yeah, you're not doing that anymore. We're the Department of Education. We're telling you to do it this way. Because you're going to have that. You're going to have some of those small systems that don't work well, but they're profitable to some of the criminals in the government. And so now the national standard, the federal government comes in and says, nope, we've decided this is the way it's going to work because you guys have proven that this is the best way to do it. That's the theory, okay? That's the theory about why that's better. Because when you have corruption in small little pockets, it's two things occur. One, it's easy to recognize the corruption because you're going to have this little pocket of corruption surrounded by no corruption. And so it's easy to see. And then it's also easy to murder it, to eviscerate it. Well, that's where the federal standard comes in to stop that. That's not a problem. That's being nitty. But the point is, see you later, Colin. Well, that would violate states' rights. Arizona can't tell Colorado what to do, and Colorado can't tell Arizona what to do. We already have checks and balances in place to stop that. The problem we're having now is we don't have good systems running. We have profitable systems running. One of the reasons why we have the church deciding what goes into our education is because one of the largest publishers in the country is in Texas. And because, other states can't afford to publish their own school books, they're buying school books from that clearinghouse publisher. Essentially, Texas gets to decide what's in our textbooks. And that's a problem. That's a failure of this system. So all the examples you come up with, you're describing how this system has failed. Because corruption was allowed to take hold, and corruption was allowed to prosper. The checks and balances we put in place didn't work. And ultimately, that's your fault. That's Robert's fault, that's Colin's fault, that's my fault, that's, Dasco's fault, assuming you live in the US. That's all our fault. That's our fault by voting wrong. We voted these people into office, and we allowed these people to do the things they do. That's our fault. That's a failure of society. That's when they made the Constitution, there's an old lady who went up to Benjamin Franklin. I'm paraphrasing here, I don't know the exact words. But she said, Mr. Franklin, what have you done? And Franklin replied, I'm paraphrasing again, the words might not be exact, but they should be pretty close. And he said, we have given you a republic for so long as you can keep it. Right? Freedom isn't free. You must fight for it continuously and forever. Once you get complacent, the people who are corrupt, they have infinite patience. They'll just keep trying over and over and over and over again because they want power. Yeah, that's because that's not a problem with pork. That's a problem with our legal system that allows conditions to exist that allows the addition of pork to these bills. That's a failure from 100 years ago. These are all people don't realize that all this shit happening in the country, it didn't just happen under Trump or Biden. This stuff has been going on for over 100 years. And it's what do you call it? An exponential curve. Okay? So an exponential curve is like, here's a graph, right? And here's a linear curve. A linear curve is just a straight line. Linear curve, 45 degrees. Okay? What we're on is an exponential curve. It starts off shallow and then goes yip, up to infinity. And that's where we're on. We're on an exponential curve. So you guys have ignored all of this part of the curve because it's not visible. It's hard to see. You got to really look for it and know what you're looking for to see it. But once that curve starts to go, it becomes in your face and you can't miss it. Okay? But people think that, oh, this is the problem. No. This is the problem that led to this. This is not the problem. This is the end result of this problem that's been going on for 100 years. Okay? As they've slowly dismantled our republic and, added bad laws, took away good laws, little by little, building their power base, so you didn't notice it, and then suddenly, whoop, we get to this part, and you're crying foul. No, that's not how it works. The only way you get this as the problem is like military coups and stuff like that. That's what causes a quick, sudden dip. Otherwise, it's a long leading edge of gentle change that leads up to that exponential curve that goes, you. And we notice this part, and we ignore this part. I mean, the correct way to do it would to make sure that nothing can be in a bill that isn't directly related to the intent of the bill. So you can't add pork for things unrelated to the bill. That would be the correct thing to do. But do you think Republicans are going to change that? Do you think Democrats are going to change that? Are you crazy? Do you know what the only difference between Republicans and Democrats is? The only difference between Republicans and Democrats is the color of the rusty mace they're going to shove up your ass. Because either which way, you're getting a rusty mace up your ass. So you can choose the blue-colored rusty mace, or you can choose the red-colored rusty mace. But you're getting a rusty mace either way. Until people realize that, until people recognize that, this isn't going to change. Well, Republicans aren't the same as Democrats. Democrats aren't the same as Republicans. I didn't say they were. I just said they're both going to shove a rusty mace up your ass. They might have a different way of getting there, but they're both going to the same place. So for this, I need to make a handle that's the right size for a person with bad dexterity to hang on to. And then I need to figure out how far I can go in transition while still maintaining a watertight seal. Although the sand is so affordable, I might just go the sand route. But I like the difference is the water is free. You turn on your faucet and you got the water. I really like the water route. And the problem is, whatever transition I use to go from the handle to the weight, I have to then go back again. I can't just cut it off. On one side, I can cut it off, but I can't cut it off on the other side. That means whatever shape I make ends up being relatively big. Now, what I could do, I don't like this, because it adds issues. I could make it 2 parts. So I have 2 parts that sit like this. This way you can print the bottoms, and then they overlap and you glue them together. I could do that, but now you're adding glue, you're adding work to combine them. I'm trying to avoid doing that. I'm trying to stick to one unibody piece. And this works great. The threads work fantastic. They're clear, they're clean, no overhang issues, they're watertight. They seal correctly to the inside of the cap. So when you put the cap on, water doesn't leak. So I like that. The threads problem is solved. Now you might say, well, you can go and angle that deep. No, you can't. The reason that works is because they're not thick. if those threads came out to here, they would fail. They might print, but they wouldn't be watertight. So I got to figure out. I guess it's going to take experimentation. See, I'm going to have to print a couple of different bodies, cones, and see. The biggest thing is the underhang cone. The overhang cone always prints better. That's why when I print, for example, one of these fins for a rocket, I sometimes print it upside down because you can get a much sharper angle if you're printing top layers than you can if you're printing bottom layers. Because when you're printing top layers, gravity's helping you. When you're printing bottom layers, gravity's against you. So you can get away with a much steeper angle on the top than you can on the bottom. So I'm going to have to, and this is going to be dependent on the plastic, dependent on the cooling. So there's no universal solution. So I'm going to have to come up with a very conservative answer to this, because it needs to be printable by anybody. Although they will need a big nozzle. There's just no getting around that. There's no way to print this with a 0.4 millimeter nozzle. Not in any reasonable amount of time. I mean, if you printed it with like 6 walls, that might work, maybe. People say, wait, that's 1 millimeter. Isn't that 3 walls? Yes, the problem is not the thickness of the wall. The 1 millimeter thickness gives me the strength I need. The vase mode gives me the watertight I need. And when you don't use vase mode and you use regular printing methods, each time you stop and start to print a perimeter, you're creating a small hole in your wall. Any imperfection in your extrusion whatsoever, and you got a hole in the wall. With 3 perimeters, you have 3 holes in the wall. And if even one of them has a hole, it's probably going to leak. So you have to increase the number of walls to increase the overlap between imperfections and non-imperfections to decrease the chance of leak. And even then, you might still have a leak. It just might take longer for it to leak. That's going to be tricky to work out. Like, this is a very conservative angle, so I can go further than that. So I guess the first test is, can I do 45 degrees? So let's try 45 degrees first. See if that works. If that doesn't work, go to 50, then go to 55, then go to 60. I'm pretty sure 60 will be safe. But the problem is, if the angle is too steep, the object becomes too big. And now you're limiting. My objective is for the whole thing to be 250 millimeters or less. Because 250 millimeters or less means anybody with an Ender 3 style printer can print this. But for example, ideally, I want to go, I think 210 millimeters, I think it is. I believe that's how tall a Prusa is. And there are a lot of printers that go to 200 millimeters, 210 millimeters. So for perfect adoption, you want 200 millimeters. The problem is 200 millimeters is not a lot. I mean, this is almost 200 millimeters. That's just 1 pound. That's where sand becomes easier. Because with sand, I don't have to be watertight. I can just even a poorly printed, not watertight model, as long as there isn't a visible hole, sand is probably going to stay inside the model. Then I can make attachable weights. I can make a handle with the 1 pound weights, totaling 1 pound, and then I can make a ring that will just simply slide over the existing ring, a thread over it, to make it 3 pounds, and then to make it 5 pounds. That would be pretty easy to do. I think those adjustable dumbbells where you attach the different amounts of rings to the end, change the weight of the dumbbell. I could do something like that, but that's going to take a lot longer to print. I won't be able to use water. They'll have to use sand, and it's going to use a lot more filament to print. However, advantage of a stackable system is that, okay, this system, keep in mind you typically want 2 of these so you can do both hands at the same time. But to keep the math simple, let's just talk about 1 of each. Okay? 1 pound, 3 pound, 5 pound. How much mass does that require? You want to make a 1 pound, 3 pound, 5 pound set. How much mass does that require for one? Well, there's 2 answers to that. It's either 9 pounds or 5 pounds. Does anybody get that yet? Does anybody get why one would require 9 pounds and one would require only 5 pounds? Well, if I make a 1 pound, a 3 pound, and a 5 pound, well, it's easy. 5 plus 3 plus 1, 9 pounds. However, if I make a cumulative system, a stackable system, start off with a 1 pound. Well, now what happens if you want 3 pounds? Okay, you need 3 pounds. No, you don't. You only need 2 pounds. Because if you take 2 pounds and add it to the 1 pound, that's 3 pounds. You've already got 1 pound of your mass. So if I simply attach an additional 2 pounds, the 1 pound becomes a 3 pound. And now I only need 2 more pounds to make that 3 pound a 5 pound. Because if I add 1 pound on each side, that's the 3 pounds you already got, and the 2 more pounds you're adding, now it's a 5 pound weight. So, it would increase the print time and the amount of plastic, but it would eliminate a lot of mass. Instead of needing 9 pounds of mass, now you only need 5 pounds of mass. And that means that sandbag goes a lot further. Now you're talking about less than $1 worth of sand. Probably about $1. I'll have to actually weigh the bag, but you're probably looking at about $1.50 worth of sand. Create 2 sets. Now you need 10 pounds, 5 pounds for each. So, and actually a little less because you're going to have the mass of the plastic. But I have to keep the mass of the plastic as low as possible still in order to avoid, if you're spending $20 on plastic and $5 on sand, you can just buy a weight set for that price. The idea is to make printing it cheaper than buying it. And why don't I have more comments? Oh no, that's just the last one there is, okay. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted the vase mode print. Because, well, first of all, I love vase mode. Second of all, it lets you use water. Third, this costs 40 cents. So this is 40 cents worth of plastic, and this is 31 cents and 42 cents. So the amount of plastic you need, 42 grams. And if you buy, how much would that cost? A lot less than that. So if we have an $11 roll, let's assume we're using, so $11 is about the cheapest you can get PET. Divided by 1,000. That is 0.011 cents, or $0.011 per gram, or 1.1 cents per gram, times 42. So this costs a nickel. This is a nickel's worth of plastic, 4.6 cents. So you add in the electricity, run the printer, and this is about a nickel. You print this. We're assuming you already have a soda bottle cap. So that's really, really cheap. That's a tiny amount of plastic. If I go the stackable route, the amount of plastic used is going to go up dramatically. It's going to go up very, very fast. However, the stackable route also means I can now use a 0.4 millimeter nozzle. Basically, you just print with 3 perimeters, and you'll have the same result as a single perimeter with 1 millimeter nozzle. We would probably use 6 perimeters anyway. Now, I'd be using 2 with the 1 millimeter nozzle, so 2 millimeter wall thickness, mostly to be strong enough. This mass is pretty high. My confidence that you could drop this and it not break is low. If you dropped it on carpet, maybe, depending on how it hit. Depending on how it hit the ground, I guess at some point I'd have to do some tests. And that does give credibility to the sand one, because the sand one is going to be less prone to breaking when it hits the ground. One of the problems with the water is that it's going to cavitate when it hits the ground. And so the internal pressure inside here is going to momentarily spike, hits the ground. And the water also wants to push out in all directions with great force. And so this thing will probably blow. But if I were to drop this on a kitchen floor, this would probably blow itself apart. And now you've got 300 mils of water all over the place, 500 mils of water all over the place. I'm trying to. This works so well, though. I'm trying to figure out another use for this. What else can I use this for? I wonder. Well, this is going to taste like shit because it's tap water. Ooh. The taste did change. I'll have to taste some tap water to see if tap water has almost a sweetness. I don't know if that's just the tap water or if something from the plastic is in the water now. That's interesting. That's something I'll have to test. Can I make a drinking container out of this? Is it even safe? I don't know. I don't know if there's going to be any infusion chemicals from the plastic to the water. At that point, you're probably going to want to use virgin PETG, uncolored, so natural PETG, no colorant. Is it even feasible for me to get the ability to test that, like a chemical analysis for it? I don't know. The plastic usage is very, very low, but the moment I start using normal printing methods, the plastic usage is probably going to go up pretty quickly. Now, stackable won't require any glue, because I can make everything threadable. In fact, I'd even use these threads, for example. Nice broad threads that I have, so that each of the stackable weights would actually thread on to the first. The whole thing would all thread together. The 2 half-pound weights would thread onto the handle. Then the 2 additional 1-pound weights would thread onto the first set, and then the next 2 additional 1-pound weights would thread onto the second set. They'd all combine together to make the 3 or the 5. And of course, because each one gets bigger, the thickness will get smaller, since it wouldn't need to be as big. Now I wonder, I could print it with TPU. It would double the price, but it would make them basically indestructible. Yeah, if I printed them with TPU, they'd essentially be indestructible. Bounce them off the floor, it wouldn't matter. And that would work if we did sand. Now, jiggly water jar, they don't jiggle. This is solid. I can't break this squeezing it. I'm squeezing that as hard as I can. You're not breaking that. That's a 1mm extrusion. That doesn't give at all. If I put my finger on it, there's a tiny bit of give. If I make a pressure point. Well, the TPU you can get, I'm pretty sure you can get TPU for around $20 a kilo. Hang on. No. Because you don't need high quality TPU. Any TPU will work. Filament. Yeah, Oh, that's Pet G. Why would you show me Pet G? Well, why? Here we go. Here's transparent 95A TPU. Actually, that's a good deal. I'll give you guys a link for that. Come on. That's a really good deal. Here's a giant arm transparent TPU for $20.48. And that will be stiff enough that with 3 or 4 walls, it really won't be that flexible. It'll feel solid to you holding it. Yeah, here's Creality TPU, $23. Here, that's only 250 grams. We don't want that. $23 for black TPU. Here's half a kilogram for $15. That's more on a per mass basis, but it's still $15 gets you enough TPU to print all of these. And it won't cost you a lot. So yeah, that's actually probably the best deal if you want to print something like this, because you don't need more than half a kilogram to print them. So even though you're paying $30 a kilogram, your absolute cost is only $15. But this would require that the person already have TPU. I know you already have PLA and probably already have PETG, but if you don't already have the plastic you need and you have to buy the plastic, now you have to compare the cost of buying the plastic versus the cost of just buying the weights. However, this is still a pretty decent deal for people. What do you... nothing sticks better than TPU. What do you mean you can't get TPU to adhere correctly? Like, your prints come apart or it won't stick to your bed? Okay, the only reason TPU would come apart is if you're printing it too cold. You need to be at a minimum of 240 Celsius. Minimum. Your cooling fan needs to be off or at 25% max. And you also need to be printing slow. Now, there is one scenario where you could be correctly printing TPU and it comes apart. Does your prints look foamy? Like, does it look nice and clear and clean and solid, or does it look foamy? Because wetness will cause that big time. Because you'll have steam explosions creating gaps in the print and it'll just come apart. Okay, so then your problem is you're either printing too cold or too fast. So fan at 25%. The only reason we set the fan at 25% is that PWM fans don't like going below 25%. They get unreliable. So fan at 25%. Your speed should be, you should be going no more than 20 millimeters a second. Any faster than that, and if you don't have the correct extruder and feeder unit, you're going to have problems. You're going to have compression and distortion problems. To see the problem with printing a flexible filament, it's always pretty easy to show people this. Take a string, pull it. No problem, right? Now what happens if you try to push a string? Get that. Okay? Now when you push PETG and PLA, it's more like pushing a stick. Okay? When you push a stick, it tends to stay put. It's possible for it to do that, but it tends to stay put. But when your stick is the consistency of TPU, it just does this no matter what you do. Okay? So the only way to print it is to either slow down so much that it doesn't have a chance to do that, or to have a 100% constrained filament path. So the TPU literally cannot go anywhere else. But yeah, if you're printing regular PLA settings, that's not going to work. Yeah, so you have big gaps in your print because your feeder is clicking because you can't feed it that fast. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to program your slice for a maximum speed of 20 millimeters per second. Okay? Then, when you start your print, you're on your printer, you're going to slow down your feed rate to 50%. Now you're going to be printing at 10 millimeters per second. Get that first layer down, make sure it stays put. When it looks like it's printing okay, increase your speed to 60%. See if the printer will tolerate that. Okay? Let it print 4 or 5 layers. If everything is still perfect, try 70%. And see if you can get to 100%. You might not be able to. You might have to print at 10 millimeters per second. But you have to print slow enough that the filament doesn't try to do this somewhere in your filament path. That's exactly what it's going to try to do. Now, of course, if you print like Amazon TPU, the 95A kind of stuff, that stuff's pretty stiff. You can usually get 20 millimeters a second out of that stuff. Because it's not like Ninja Flex, which is just ridiculous. But yeah, and print as hot as you can. Like I would print at 245, 250. If you have a Teflon end, go 245. And slowing down will allow you to get more heat soak. But yeah, if you print at regular PLA speeds, it's not going to work. It's just not. Not unless you have a Furion hot end or one of those. It's not Furion, it's something else. A specialized hot end that I have for my my monoprice printer. It was a hot end specifically designed for. It's not the hot end is not the issue. The feeder is the issue. The extruder is 2 halves. You have the feeder and you have the hot end. Those two together make the extruder. Yeah, the standard Creality feeder cannot handle TPU at PLA speed. It can do TPU, hard TPU, but you gotta slow down. At least 20 millimeters a second, maybe slower. You're not going to be printing fast. You just gotta get that out of your head. It's just not gonna work. With a standard feeder, you are not going to be able to print TPU fast. And now you also have to watch your temperature. As you slow down, you might actually need to lower the temperature you're printing at. All TPU has water in it. There's no such thing as TPU that's not wet. All TPU is wet. The question is, how wet? So for example, at whatever print speed you figure out your printer works at, 245 might be too hot. You might hear a lot of snap, crackle, pop. You might have to lower it to 240 to stop the snap, crackle, pop. I wouldn't go below 240 though. TPU really needs about 240 to print. But yeah, if you hear Rice Krispies, if you hear snap, crackle, pop, if you hear those steam bursts, if your print isn't smooth and clean, meaning it's got a rough texture to it, that means you have water and it's wet. That's going to cause you a problem. But yeah, start at 240 Celsius, start at 20 millimeters a second, start at 25% fan speed, and see how that goes. You don't need too much squish with TPU. It sticks really, really well. You may need to assist it. You almost always want to use a skirt with TPU, but you want to increase the skirt offset. So with a 0.4 millimeter nozzle, many times I'll print like a 10 perimeter skirt, but I'll have a 0.4 millimeter offset between the part and the skirt, and the squish is usually enough to allow that skirt to just touch the part. Because otherwise it's really, really hard to remove the skirt from the print afterwards. It's not going to just snap off like PLA and PETG does. It's going to want to stay. So you'll have to adjust your gap depending on your squish. But before you start printing, make sure that nozzle is clean. Go in there with a towel. Take a tissue. Don't use a tissue. Take like a microfiber towel. Go in there and actually grab and clean that nozzle. Make sure there's no goop on that nozzle. And then as you're printing, make sure you have a pair of forceps or long tweezers handy. And as you're printing the skirt, go in there if you need to and pull that crap off that nozzle. It starts to stick to the nozzle. Sometimes you even have to go in there and hold down the TPU until it starts extruding on the bed. Then you can let it go. That's why you want 10 perimeters to the skirt. You want to make sure it's properly extruding and properly sticking by the time it actually gets to the part. And then you're usually good. Because TPU sticks really, really hard. It sticks good. The best way to remove TPU is to peel it off. So a flex plate is your best bet. And then you just take that flex plate and you just peel it. If you just pull, you might tear your part, you might tear your print bed. TPU sticks really good. That's it though. 20 millimeters a second max. Also, lower your retraction as much as you possibly. Yeah, Wham Bam's good. That'll peel off nicely. Don't over squish. If you embed the TPU into your print bed, it ain't coming off. Okay? TPU will meld with your bed, so you do not want to over squish. Yeah, 240C, 25% fan. Set your retraction to 1 millimeter. I know, even if you have a Bowden, doesn't matter. Set your retraction to 1 millimeter. If you end up with too much stringing, try 2 millimeters. I really wouldn't go above 2 millimeters. Retraction is really, really bad for TPU in a system not designed to handle it. So yeah, maybe start at like 2 millimeters. You should probably be safe with 2 millimeters, I think. But you definitely do not want to be running 6 or 7 millimeters of retraction with TPU. You're going to have a bad day. You need to control stringing other ways. So use combing to make sure you stay within your part outline. That'll help control the stringing. Printing a slightly lower temperature can help with stringing, but remember, if you print too low a temperature, you're going to increase your back pressure inside your nozzle, which is going to cause you backfeed problems, and your filament's going to bend and escape. But also, it won't bond as well if you print too cold. You really want to be at 240. So, you might even want to increase your first layer offset a little bit so you're not over squishing. You really don't need to squish. TPU sticks really, really good. So yeah, try that. Nice big offset, 10 perimeter skirt, unless it's a big part, then it's like 1 or 2 perimeters. But you want a skirt, increase your skirt offset distance. Start at 0.4 if you have a 0.4 nozzle, maybe 0.2, maybe 0.6, depending on how much squish you have. Start with a 0.4 offset. Small parts, 10 perimeters, big parts, 1 or 2 perimeters. 240C, 25% fan, 20 millimeters per second, with 2 millimeters maximum retraction. And go from there. You should have much better results. But yeah, if you're printing TPU at PLA speed, then you're not printing. You're going to have gaps all over the place because the filament's not going to be coming out. You can't push TPU through a stock hot end that quickly. It's just going to compress and bend behind at the feeder. Capricorn tubing can help with TPU. Get the slick kind, so the lighter blue one that's more slippery. You want the high lubricity one, but good. Capricorn. Now Capricorn's a double-edged sword because the tolerance for the hole in the Capricorn is tighter, which means your filament is less likely to do this inside the Bowden tube going to create problems. But the tighter fit also means more friction, pushing the TPU through. But if you use the high lubricity Capricorn, you should be okay. But yeah, your big thing is slow down and make sure you're printing hot enough. You might need to increase your fan speed a little bit once you slow down, because TPU has high thermal mass, so it retains heat. You know, things like PETG and PLA, they let go of their heat pretty readily. They have a low thermal mass, so they cool off really fast. TPU is more like gel. It holds heat, so it stays hot and malleable longer, which can be a problem if you have overhangs. So you might need to increase your fan speed. But if you're having overhang issues, then you have plenty of heat, so you can afford to increase your fan speed 50%, 75%, even 100%. But start off with 240C and 20 millimeters a second, 2 millimeter retraction, 25% fan. Then adjust as you see what kind of results you're getting. You can fuse hybrid parts, so you can fuse PLA and TPU together, but you need to use a PLA Plus, not a regular PLA, because you need to print the PLA slow and at 240C. If you print regular PLA at 240C, you're just going to burn it. It's going to become brittle. PLA Plus, like Esun PLA Plus, can handle the higher temperatures better. So when you create the bonding layer between the PLA and the TPU, the PLA needs to be at 240 so that it will actually bond with the TPU. And then after a couple layers, you can lower the temperature back down. I do all this in the slicer. But that does work. If it's a thin bonding layer, the TPU is probably just going to separate from the PLA. But if you have a decent surface area, it actually does work. Like I made a soda can holder where the top and bottom were TPU, so that it had some shock resistance if you dropped it, and it actually worked. But it needs to be PETG. I don't think that works at all. I never was able to get PETG and TPU to bond together, but PLA Plus and TPU did bond together as long as I was going slow and hot. Well, they bonded well enough that the parts stayed together. But yeah, that's it. Do that, you're good to go. Where you see those links, you can get TPU pretty darn cheap. So where the TPU is usable is if you have a person with a 3D printer who is making sets of these to donate to a local therapy center. It might even be better to go the TPU route just for the durability increase. Because these parts will be so much more durable if I printed them with TPU. You could drop them, step up. They're not going to break. Even if they come apart, you'll be able to screw them back together. They're not going to break. Yes and no. PETG is a little bit different. PETG is just an asshole. It's that simple. It's an asshole, and it doesn't like sticking to the bed. If your design constraints will permit it, the easiest way to get PETG to stick to the bed is to over extrude. PETG will stick to your nozzle better than it will stick to itself. So what happens is a piece of the PETG globs up on the nozzle, and then it just pulls all the PETG you're extruding into a ball on the nozzle. It can be a pain in the ass. So similar instructions for different reasons, but similar instructions. When you're printing with PETG, it's absolutely essential that your nozzle is spotless. Your nozzle needs to be clean, because otherwise the PETG is just going to stick to your nozzle instead of sticking to your bed. You also need to make sure you print a skirt. You print the skirt slow, And what I do is on the printer itself, you have feed rate and then you have flow rate. I take the flow rate and I increase it to 200%. So now I'm extruding double the amount of plastic. And I will go in there, my long skinny tool, and here's the nozzle, and it's printing, and I'll actually go in there and I'll push down and I'll hold the piece down so that it stops sticking to the nozzle and starts correctly extruding. And then once it's just, don't try to pull it off. Do not try to remove the part you held down. Do not try to remove a bad part of the PETG. The rest of it's just going to come up too. Do not attempt to extract. Just hold down, forceps, go in there with a knife or a putty knife, and hold it down so that it doesn't stick to the nozzle. Get it started. Over extrude at like 200%, and you should get a good first layer. Once you get a good first layer, PETG prints just like PLA. Except for having a little bit more stringing, and using the same settings as TPU. Although you can use 6mm of retraction, that's fine. But again, you want 240C on the nozzle. You want 25% on the fan. Although you can go up to 10 cubic millimeters a second for PETG, which usually ends up being 25 to 30 millimeters per second, depending on what size nozzle. You can print faster with a 0.4mm nozzle, but you got to watch your cooling. You need to increase the cooling for overhangs. But yeah, the problem with PETG is the first layer. If you can get that first layer to stick, you're golden. You're good. Also, PETG hydrolyzes really bad inside the hot end. So that little bit of filament that sits in the hot end before everything cools down and when everything heats back up, that first couple of inches of plastic is useless. It's just not going to stick right. It's a pain in the ass. Many times I'll just let the print fail when it starts the first layer, and I'll let it ball up a nice little chunk of plastic, and then I'll just pull it off and restart the print. Now you've gotten rid of basically I've purged. You purge out all that crap and get to fresh plastic, and then it prints fine. But yeah, PETG hydrolyzes pretty bad in the hot end, so you have to do a larger purge to get rid of the hydrolyzed plastic. And that first layer is critical. If you don't get that first layer down, you're gonna have a bad day. Oddly enough, that let's see, Wham Bam PC is halfway decent with the PETG. The textured, oh, for God's sake, why can't I remember the name? What's the name of the golden colored stuff that we print on? I forgot the name of it. How could I forget the name of it? PEI. I don't know why I couldn't remember it, but PEI. PEI works very well for PETG. But again, what you want is a little bit less squish and a 200% over extrusion. So you want to over extrude that first layer by quite a bit. You got to make sure you account for that in your model design. But the more plastic you can extrude for that first layer, the better off you're going to be. In fact, sometimes what I will do when I'll print a large skirt, not close to the part, but out from the part, and I'll print like 6 perimeters. And what I'll do is when it first starts printing the skirt, I'll actually grab the feeder tension arm and shove plastic in. That'll create a blob on the print bed, but that blob will stick hard enough to pull all the strings off the nozzle. What happens is you're going to have strings sticking to the nozzle, and those strings are going to pull your extrusion off the print bed. So you shove some plastic in when it first starts printing, and that creates a little blob, and that little blob holds, then you'll actually see all the strings start pulling off the nozzle before it starts extruding clean plastic. If you're really, really careful and you have that first layer, that first perimeter is not, sticking right, but now it is, you can take something like this to a part of the PETG extrusion that's not attached to the bed and go dink and cut it. And you can take off that bad part. But if you don't get it clean on one dink, you're just going to pull up the rest of your print. It's very, very easy to accidentally pull up PETG when you're doing that first layer. But yeah, you want to over extrude that first layer, do that push manually to get that little blob and to force a proper purge and initial extrusion. And once you get it extruding initially, that first part, you're good. Once that first part starts going, print on PEI, use nanopolymer adhesive, and also the PC surface from Wham Bam works pretty good with PETG. The PC from Wham Bam is a little on the soft side, so be careful about over squishing. But yeah, you got to make sure the nozzle's clean, and you got to make sure that initial purge and extrusion is actually sticking and not sticking to the nozzle. You'll start to realize what it's doing, and you'll recognize it, and you'll figure out how to get rid of that. And once you do that, PETG is actually pretty nice. You can get some nice prints out of it. Some of the best PETG is atomic filament. Not only do they have a really high quality, low shrinkage PETG, but they have all of their nice colors available in the PETG. About $32 to $35 a roll. It's not crazy expensive, but it's not cheap. Not cheap PETG. Not all PETG is made the same. I've noticed that some PETG is much more higher impact resistant than others, while some others are very brittle. You just have to experiment. But yeah, beyond that, most of what you see me print is with PETG lately. This little itty bitty camera thingy I made, that's PETG. Big thick 1mm extrusion, that's PETG. All the rockets I print, they're PETG. I don't need the impact resistance and stuff like that from the PETG. What I need is the slightly higher temperature of deflection so that the parts don't melt in the car. That's the only reason I need the PETG. Otherwise, I'd use PLA. Okay, first of all, forget about UV resistance. It doesn't mean what you think. It doesn't matter. Yes, technically, PETG is more UV tolerant than PLA, but it doesn't matter. Okay? You are not going to UV degrade a part. Okay? Now, maybe if you print a 0.4mm vase mode print that's sitting out in the high desert, at 7,000 feet where the UV is just beating the living shit out of it, okay, maybe that might make a difference. Like, your part might last 4 years instead of 5 years. I'm serious. It's just not that big a deal. The only thing that I've noticed that actually degrades from UV is the colorant. So, for example, I printed a mount. Actually, I bet you I can show you a picture of it. I bet you. Find a picture there. Hang on. What's the matter, baby? You looking for Noel? Hmm? I bet you I posted a make. I should be able to find this. Here. 205 makes. Oh, I can't do oldest? Here we go. Here's the older stuff, so it shouldn't take me too long to find this. Here we go. Found it. So I used some cheap garbage China Banggood PLA, and I printed this. Okay. So I printed that as a mount for my electric car. This is so I could. Is there only one picture? Yeah, it's only one picture. See, I did a whole bunch of stuff in this gold PLA. This was actually printed on my MakerBot Mini. But I printed this mount so that I could. I think I eventually got rid of this part. Yeah, I eventually reprinted this without this here because the tolerances weren't very good. And the fit was pretty tight. So I printed that without that centerpiece so that I could leave my charger for my electric car mounted to the wall at work. Permanently mounted, bolted to the wall. That has a hook on the top for me to coil the cable around it. And then that socket so I can stick the electric car thing in the socket, because you drop that 1772 connector, it's $150 to replace that connector. So you want to have it clicked into a socket so it doesn't drop and get smashed and kicked and whatever. And so that's a way for me. I coil the wire around that hook, and then I click the charge plug into that when I'm not charging the car. That was on the wall of my business in New Jersey for over 5 years. The only thing the UV light did to it was make the gold go away. So the gold, yeah, EV socket. So that was just cheap Chinese junk PLA. It was a gold PLA from China. And the only thing the UV light did was make the color fade. Structurally, the part was still perfectly fine after 5 years. The gold color just faded. That's it. It looked tan when it was all done. The gold shine went away. But otherwise, the part was fine. People are over concerned about UV. There is not a problem with UV. And if you do have a problem with UV, take a can of spray paint and paint it. There you go. Your UV problem just went away. So don't worry about UV. UV is not a problem. Unless you have a special use case scenario where UV is a particular issue. But for the average person printing the average 3D printed part, the UV just doesn't matter. It's a technical specification that's not going to impact 99.9999999% of users. It's just not a big deal. It's not an issue. Your much bigger problem is thermal mass and temperature deflection. That's your problem. UV doesn't even come up on the radar. And again, worst case scenario, spray paint it. If you paint the part, now it's not exposed to UV anymore. The paint's exposed to UV. If the paint peels, spray paint it again. Problem solved. Just like any other thing. Your shed, your tools, whatever. You paint them. You have to paint them regularly as the paint fades and gets degraded. Same thing here. If you're really worried about it, paint it. And then every couple of years, you'll have to apply another coat of paint as the yellow paint wears off. But the part underneath will be fine. Pus coming out of my eyes. Annoying. What do you mean what happened to my digital shop? There shouldn't be nothing wrong with it. I haven't added anything to it lately. Oh, my website's not working. Why isn't my website working? Did I not pay the bill? Probably didn't pay the bill. Whatever card they have on file probably doesn't work anymore. Yep, renewal. Yeah, I'm not paying that. Not $191. Can I go here? I'm not paying $200. I can't afford that. Shouldn't cost that much. Unless that's multiple years, no. Excuse me? Are you not going to let me visit any part of this site? I have to log out to see the other parts of your site? What is wrong with you? Yeah, that's what I thought. It's like $375 a month. Yeah, $90 for 2 years. $45 for 12 months. We just have to log in again. Bring up the chat so I can see you guys. I didn't know it was down. Yeah, whichever one of you guys purchased the large double door freezer, the like commercial freezer, like you put sodas in and stuff like that, thank you. That was like a $90 commission. Thank you. And live chat stopped working. There we go. Question about Amazon. If I have it, stuff already in my cart, go to your Amazon page and buy it. Does it still count? No, it does not. Anything that's already in your cart doesn't count. The reason for this is on my domain, my hosting account expired, and thankfully it did not successfully renew because they're trying to charge me $200 for a $45 account. So I'm on support getting that fixed. The dinging is every time they send a message. I didn't notice that my domain name was down. Yes, save it for later. And then when you click on my link, then add the stuff to your cart. The reason they do this is that when you add something to your cart, it remembers the affiliation. So you could actually, click on my link, add something to your cart, go to someone else's affiliate link, add something to your cart, and go to a third person's affiliate link and add something to your cart. And each of them will get the credit for those individual things, even though they're all in the same order. And basically, the way it works, when you click on my affiliate link, anything you buy on Amazon for the next 24 hours, as an Amazon associate, I earn from qualifying purchases. That's their required wording. But for the next 24 hours, anything you add to your cart, I'll get credit for, unless you click on someone else's affiliate link, then it switches. Yes, save for later, and then add it to your cart when you're ready to buy, after clicking on my link. For now, you can click on my link in the description. You can do it that way. I should have a general Amazon link in the description of the video. Here. Yes. Where is that? Where is that? Oh, I did. Do I really not have a general? Oh, yeah, here, Amazon United States. But at the bottom, I have all my different Amazon links, including Amazon United States. So if you just that, it'll take you there. Don't bookmark that page. You cannot bookmark it. That will not work. You have to actually, go to one of my videos or go to my site when it's back up again. You have to actually do it that way and click on the link. NASCAR tire with holes in it to hold little flags. Nice. Yeah, if you buy on Amazon every day and you just what I tell people to do is just bookmark Nerisse.com, bookmark www.nerisse.com, and make that your Amazon link. And so you'll click on your Amazon shortcut and it'll take you to my page, and then right at the top there's an Amazon link. It takes you to the home page. You do that once per day when you're going to shop on Amazon, and you're good. That will help me out tremendously. You never sent me a message. Yeah, I know. Amazon's lowered how much they pay by a lot, but it's consistent, reliable pay. Yeah, I didn't realize the page stopped working. I didn't realize that the renewal didn't go through. I haven't gotten nothing from you. I checked spam folder. I did get one blank message from you. There was nothing in it. I replied saying, "Hey, this message is blank. There's nothing here." Hang on. There it is. Let's see, where is it at? Oh, I didn't find that message now. I don't even know if I kept it. It was empty. There's no subject. There's no body. Yeah, I must have gotten rid of it. I got that one message from you that same day that you said you were going to send me a message, but it had no subject and no body. It was just an empty message. And you check the spam folder again. Nothing in the spam folder either. Double checking, make sure you didn't get stuff in spam. Nope. And nothing in spam. Come on, when are you going to reply? You keep dinging when you're typing, but you're not replying. Oh. Wow. What exactly are you doing? That message is okay. Hopefully the other moderator hit allow for that message. Well, that's how you're making the money. 7 million views. Jesus. Well, it looks like I'm going to have to get a new host. They're telling me the cheapest plan they have for renewal is $155 a year. I'm not paying that. For a simple website, that's insane. I'm not interested in what your 6 month price is. I need to know what the permanent price is. I'm sorry, Lightspeed, and I'm not paying attention to you as much as I should be. I can't renew my web hosting. They want $156 a year, and I can't afford that. So I gotta find a new host. You guys know of a good cheap host, a couple dollars a month kind of host where you pay by year? I don't need a whole lot of space. All I need is the ability to have, multiple domains and to be able to create subdomains and stuff like that. I don't need a whole lot of space or anything. A few gig is enough. But I need a non-intro price. I need a, like Iona says, $4 a month for 6 months. Well, I don't care what it is now. What is it after 6 months? I need to know what the permanent price is. Not a whole lot. There's not a tremendous amount of traffic. It's not going to suck up all that much bandwidth. But bandwidth is free anymore. Nobody charges for bandwidth anymore. Because it really doesn't cost that much for most sites. Okay, who's Bluehost? I like Dots. I use Dotster because they were cheap, and that's what Dig used to use. Very high, traffic site, so they have high reliability. But at $155 a month. Why didn't I load? What the fuck? I hate bullshit like that. Why does... Okay, so see, at least this one tells you $1.90 a month, normally $7.99. $7.99 is too much. Although I can get 3 years for $3 a month. It's not too bad. At least I can... That would allow me to push the problem down the road 3 years. What's the other one? Post here. Web hosting. What's the regular price? No, I want the cheapest. $7.99 a month when you renew, so I don't want that. I'll never use GoDaddy again. Fuck GoDaddy. They are scumbags. That Namecheap is who I use too. What printer was it? Yeah, Namecheap is who I use now too. Okay. Oh wow, you got the Giga, huh? Nice. Yeah, not a good start. Oh yeah, I saw Joel's video. I haven't watched it yet, but I saw it listed. Oh man, these sites make it. I would kill to have a printer like that. Oh, nice. There's a Reddit list on that. Nothing really there. I know. 8 by 8 by 10. Oh my god, the things you could print with that. I imagine he will. A project that big. Although I guess it depends on what kind of response. This site's free. 5 gigs of space, unlimited bandwidth, which is more than enough. Free subdomains. I use a lot of subdomains. Can I bring multiple domains? Well, I guess I can make multiple accounts. Well, let's try it. The worst it can do is not work, right? Register. Infinity free. Hello. I won't be able to get my email. Or will I? No, I don't think I will. I don't know how. I think I can. I think I'm passing the email. Okay. We get to see if I get the email. I might not get the email. I'm still getting emails today. I am still getting emails. Interesting. I wonder why that works. Go away. Alright, create an account. Now, why? Oh. So the free one would get no control panel and I get no email accounts. You have $1.67 a month, but now you're limited to 250 gigabytes of bandwidth, which is probably okay. But you only get one domain name. I have multiple domain names. Although most of my domain names go to YouTube pages. I don't know how much bandwidth I use. Well, if it's just a basic site, the bandwidth will be very low. I don't know how much bandwidth Narum Live uses though. Hey, red light. What are we doing today? Well, I successfully made those bottles watertight. So they printed out great, no issues. They're watertight. This will be the one for the sand. The threads printed perfectly. I might be switching tact and going to a modular system because the handle's too big for a person who has dexterity issues. And making something that doesn't get too large, that's still watertight, would be troublesome. So I might be better off going with a conventional print method using sand. Especially since if I stack, I only need 5 pounds per weight, not 9 pounds. Because you don't need a 1, a 3, and a 5. You need a 1, a 1, and a 1. Because you can add the weights to the previous weights. So that should still keep the cost pretty low. Especially because the sand takes a lot less space. And then I'm also thinking about using TPU. If I'm going to go with regular construction, then TPU might be worth, even though it's going to be double the cost. They'll also be nearly indestructible. Maybe if you drop them or sit on them or kick them or something like that. Looks like they're going to give me 3 days of access so I can at least download my site. Which they don't have to do, so I appreciate that. I mean, I probably have backups of everything somewhere, but it'd be a nightmare to find it because I'm a disorganized idiot. While downloading from FTP would only take a few minutes since it's not that much data. So, gotta find a new host. For Nerys.com, I can just use this Infinity thing. But I also do need email handling. Or well, that's the problem is that I haven't figured out a way to separate domain email and domain hosting. If I host the website with a host, the email goes there too. I haven't figured out how to separate the two. Like, is there a way from Namecheap.com for me to have the email go to Gmail and the website hosting go to whatever host I'm using? Now, how do I split it? Right now, I have the email. I have Bluehost up here. They're one of the better ones at $3 a month for 3 years, but then it's $7 a month after that. It's okay. Hang on a second. I got multiple conversations going on. Well, right now I can't afford $5.45 a month, so I got to keep it really, really cheap right now. Well, I can afford $5.45 a month, but you have to pay for the whole year. That would be like $70, and I don't have that right now. Here. Right now, I just want to get Nerisse.com back up and email not stopping. What was I clicking on? Damn it. Oh, I know. I've learned the hard way to keep the domain and the hosting separate. So the domain stays on Namecheap. That's what's going to make it very easy for me to switch hosts. So I just got to upload to the new host, change the NS1 and NS2, and I'm done. You know what I could do? Oh my god, why didn't I think of that? I could use the Infinity free plan and just create multiple accounts for each one. But how do I handle the email? That's the only issue. If I didn't have the email to worry about, it'd be no big deal. Okay. F. Okay. Well, my email account is Nerisse. So the Nerisse.com is the only one I use for email. FTP is port 80. No, not. Yeah, port 80, isn't it? Ah. Yeah, I saw that. FTP port 21. The problem is not accepting my login. He says they were nice. They allowed FTP for 3 days, but apparently whatever login credentials I'm using aren't being accepted. But these are the credentials I've always used. So I'm not sure why it's not accepting them. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe it's something dumb like that. Nope. Oh, the internet just a dump. I know, but that's what I don't have access to. Their thing is configured that no matter what address I type in, it takes me to the renewal page. He even gave me a link to my FTP page, and it didn't work because it redirected me to the renewal page. Well, I guess if I haven't used raw FTP login in like 5 years because I just go to the control panel and do FTP from there. So it's possible I just don't remember what the username and password is. So is there any way to separate email and hosting? Is there any way for me to say I want the email portion of my domain name to go to Gmail, and I want the web portion to go to such and such host? Well, no, two hosting plans isn't separating them. That's just having two hosting plans. I need the email to go to Gmail. There's no way to do that from the registrar? Yeah, I know, but the free plan doesn't have any email. Not from registrar, okay. So at least one account has to have email. So I guess I could just use the $1.67 account and then use the free account for all my other domain names, since those domain names don't need access to email. Is there any way to at least get the catch-all? I guess you couldn't do that without a host. That's actually one of the problems I had with Dotster. So I guess it's a good thing I'm moving away from them now anyway. One of the biggest problems I had with Dotster is that they insisted I use their email account. Even though I was just sending my domain name to their host and then redirecting to Gmail, they still kept my email in their account under Dotster. You thinking, no big deal, right? Except once a month, literally every month, that mailbox would fill And once the mailbox fills, it stops receiving email. So once a month, I have to log into Dotster, go into their webmail interface to an email account that I never use, just to delete all the email. Because they have no method for me to auto-delete. There's no way for me to say anything older than 30 days, delete it. They have no method of doing that. So I had to manually log into the webmail every single month to click on, toggle view, wait the 3 minutes it takes for it to show me 1,000 messages, then select all, delete, wait, select all, delete, wait, select all, delete, until the 3,000 or 4,000 messages were gone. Then I had to refresh and click purge to empty out the goddamn trash box, and then I'm good for another month. Okay, so I guess I'll just do that one. Wait a minute, you're saying there is a way to separate? But you just said I can't do it from the registrar. But where's that email? I'm doing two-factor login. I got a couple domain names I got to renew too. Trust and Thrust has to be renewed. It says 2, but it's only showing me 1. So how do I make it different? Okay, so domain list. Manage. So what do I do in Namecheap? Where do I do that? I could add name servers. That's all I have. Oh, wait a minute. Oh. So it looks like if I set the... Yes, I'm using Namecheap. Not hosting. Just for registry. Does Namecheap have hosting? I don't like having hosting on the same company as the domain name because then they can hold both hostage. But let's see what they have as far as pricing. So it looks like $1.48 a month, $4.48 a month regular price, which is not bad. Looks like they have email hosting. $0 a month for the first 2 months and $15 a year. I'm actually okay paying $15 a year if it works well. Yes, it worked. Oh. Why won't it let me click that? Okay. So here it is. I was 1 digit off. I was 1 digit off on my username. Yep, I was 1 digit off. Okay. So create a directory, www. Okay. So now I just have to download all this. Should be able to just select everything. Dump it. Okay. I'm done with them. My FTP is downloading. Now I can pay proper attention to my conversation with you. Sorry about that. It's really hard to do 2 things at once like that. So, is there a way for me to is there a simple way in Namecheap for me to simply redirect my domain email, so anything at Nerys.com, to Gmail? Is there a way to do that? Domain, mail, email. Okay, there is no way to do that. So I could forward a single individual account there, but not must have a hosting provider. Okay. So Google can't be the hosting provider for that. Oh, so only the business side, the pay side of Google can do that. Your free Gmail account can't host a domain email. Yeah, I was looking at that. I was trying to avoid that so I can avoid the mail building up in the host account that I have to log in every month and clean out. If I could just send it to Gmail, then that's no problem. But by having it at both locations, it's annoying. And it also means I have to have a host account for a website that doesn't really need a host account. MyNourice.com is an extremely simple website that's like 2 megabytes. Not even. It might even be less than 1 megabyte. And there's not going to be that much bandwidth or traffic there. But I need the hosting because of the... See, that's what I couldn't do on Doster. There was no way to forward and delete. It would forward and keep. So now I'm looking at Infinity Free, and they have a starter premium account. It's $1.67 and only gives 250 gigabytes of bandwidth, which is fine. Yeah. So it looks like I simply need, and this allows one email account and gives me cPanel access. Now, as long as I can create multiple accounts with them, like, can you create multiple Infinity Free accounts? So I can create a separate account for NaramLive.com. That's all I would need. Let's just do it. It's only $1.67 a month. But is that the permanent price, or is that a temporary price? Oh, 40 gigabytes a ton. Doster had a really tiny mail account. They want you to pay for more. That's why they wouldn't give you many options. Let me just get the damn domain name online again. All right, it says $19.99 annually. Okay. Please don't be an intro rate. I don't think it is. Let me log in with the password. God damn it. Stop being a pest. Do I have enough on there? I think I do. I don't like giving auto renew type companies my bank card, because then, if the price changes, it comes right out of your freaking bank account. It can really give you a bad day. At least if it comes out of a credit card, it'll just get declined if there's not enough money. Yes, there's enough on there. Continue. Yuck. I hate when caps lock gets turned on. Oh, I hate when you... That number... No, not a robot. Okay. PayPal. Yeah, bandwidth. The Narum Live can use some bandwidth sometimes, but not that much. Nearest.com definitely doesn't use any bandwidth. Unless, of course, they count email as bandwidth. I get a lot of spam. PayPal. Yes. Okay, download. All right. I'm back to client area. Hopefully now it will tell me the name servers to use. It's downloading. Yeah, we are still downloading. Uh-oh. Did it crash? Nope, it's still going. Narum Live has a lot of files. But the base website is downloaded. Let's see. How do I see my account? My account? It says I have 0 services and 0 domains. How do I... well, what's going on? Why didn't it accept? Did something not get accepted or something? Or... well, it says order confirmation. You sent an automatic payment. Review automatic payment. Yeah, I have to go to this page. Copy. Open a new tab. There doesn't appear to be anything in here. Oh, come on. Really? No, it's not incorrect. God damn it. Fucking captchas, man. And captchas can suck my dick. I have to separately register in the support system. Are you serious? Oh god, what a stupid system. This is a patently stupid system. And there's no chat. Nice. There's no chat. All I can do is open a ticket. God almighty. Did I accidentally create with a slightly different email address? infinityfree@nerese.com. Nope, I used the right address. And is this using the same address? Or Chris? infinityfree@nerese.com. It's the same address in both the email and the account, so that's correct. But when I go to my services, it says, oh, here we go. Here we go. Oh, it says pending. Okay. Why would it be pending? At least give me the host names. Cannot begin using it until it is activated. Oh, here's the name service. Okay, here we go. Pending is okay as long as I have the name service so I can get that change going. You know, while we're waiting for it to do its thing. So that's fine. No, I gotta change the existing name servers. Ooh, I'm gonna. Oh no, if I change the name servers, I lose email. If I change the name servers, then the email is gonna stop working, isn't it? Can I put both name servers in? Like, can I have one name server be the one company and one name server be the other company? Would that keep the email active long enough for me to finish this process? Or would that just make it explode into a glitch in the matrix? I have a feeling the moment I switch name servers, I'm going to stop receiving email to Nerys.com. And I probably don't want to do that until all of this is finished. Yeah, I probably don't want to mess with that until all this is finished. But wait until it's finished downloading everything off FTP. Wait until the new account is active, then switch it over. Because otherwise I think I'll lose my access to email. I'll still be able to access Gmail, but none of the Nerys.com will go there if I move the domain too early. Hey, TRT Nordland. Okay, it looks like they manually review all accounts. So I just have to wait for them to manually review the account. I should probably update the ticket. My hosting expired for my domain names, and I didn't realize it, so none of my domain names are working. Well, actually, just the hosting. So just Nerys and their live isn't working. But they raised the price by 300%, which almost 400%, which I can't afford. Actually, yeah, it's 450% price increase. So I have to change hosts, my domain name. And so I am currently downloading. Oh, is it done? No. I'm currently. My registrar is Namecheap. My host is Dotster. I'm switching over to iFinity Free, or Infinity Free. They have a $20 a year hosting plan, just plenty. That gets me my email account and what little space Nerys.com needs. And then I can actually set up free accounts for my other domain names since they don't need email. Or I can use the simple email from Namecheap to do basic forwarding. So I'm in the process of FTP downloading all of my stuff. They were nice enough to give me 3 days of access, which they didn't have to do, so I'll grant them. That was nice of them to do that. So I am currently downloading all of my content from my current host so that I can upload it to the new host. And I sign up for the new host account, waiting for it to get off pending status so I can change the name servers over. because if I change the name servers over now, I'll lose access to my domain email, which means I won't be able to get any messages from the host. So I have to wait until it's not pending anymore so I can set up an email account, then transfer the name servers over. Fun, fun, fun. And I've got to get going because it is 2:12. The produce giveaway is in 10 minutes. I got to go get that produce. I want some veggies. So I'm going to skedaddle. I will see you guys later. I am going to keep working on this. If you guys can think of any other use, what can I use this for? I mean, it's a watertight container that I can print. And you know, it uses a regular bottle cap. And so I'm wondering, I mean, I don't think I can use it as a water bottle. I think the plastic is leaching chemicals into the water. So I think it's gonna, make the taste weird. I don't think it's gonna hurt me. I don't think there's enough chemicals in 42 grams of plastic to do any damage to me. But it tastes funny. So it'll be interesting. What can I do with this? There's got to be something I can do. I could print temporary water bottles. That's an interesting usage scenario. Because it only costs a nickel. That's 5 cents worth of plastic. Waste oil is tough because it's always hot. You'd have to use a different container to put it in while it's hot to let it cool down before you can then transfer it into a container like this. And the problem is, well, you might as well just use that other container that handles the heat. Otherwise, you're just transferring between two containers for what reason? Now, it does open up the possibility to make temporary bottles. So, for example, print one of these that's really tiny and use it for bringing a small amount of olive oil camping with you and stuff like that. That's an interesting usage. Although you can always just bring packets. But that is an interesting possible usage. 34,482,657 bytes. So that's only 34 megabytes? There's no way. It's got to be bigger than 34 megabytes. Is that 34 gigabytes? Or is that 34 megabytes? Oh, that's just the 9 files. I think it's 34 megabytes. Okay. That's just these 9 files. That's not everything. I think. I don't know. But, all right. I got to go get these veggies or I'm going to lose out. It's first come, first serve. So if you don't get there early, you don't get nothing. So I'm going to work on I'm going to see what I can do about making vase mode versions because I really love how little plastic you use. I'm going to keep experimenting, see how much overhang I can deal with, stuff like that. But I'm also going to work on the TPU version because I think ultimately the TPU version's the better bet because that has durability. You drop it, kick it, sit on it, it's not going to break. These will break. If you drop this on a hard floor, it's going to break. I do not think this will survive a fall, even with a 1mm extrusion. I think this joint right here, where those 8 layers join with the vase mode, I think that right there will just come apart. I don't think that's going to hold. We'll see though. Maybe I'll do some drop tests and we'll see how well it holds up. But I think the TPU is going to be the better bet because that would mean this would cost a dime instead of a nickel, and I'm okay with a dime. I think that's still more than cheap enough. And go from there, and that'll also allow me to make it modular. So I'll keep working on that. Now that we're getting warm, well, this next week's going to be cold, so starting next week, I should be able to start printing my blocks again. But I'd like to get enough of these blocks printed to actually put something together cool at Rocky Mountain Murph, because I will be at Rocky Mountain Murph. That's at the end of April. And go from there. So I will see you guys later. I'll see you next week. Thank you very much. Thank you to my patrons who are still loyal and staying with me. I appreciate that. I think I lost another one last month, but you know, attrition happens. I got to get a hold of Lightspeed to talk about that TikTok thing. I have a feeling I don't have the views profit from that, but I'm going to try it anyway because it's free. You know, the worst it can do is not work, right? I mean, fuck 2,000 a week. I'd be okay with 2,000 a quarter. If I can make an extra $400 or $500 a month, I'd be happy because that would actually put me in a position where I wouldn't be so piss poor broke. Like right now, I don't know how I'm gonna. I still haven't paid my property taxes, and I got $300 in the bank, and I need that to pay my $200 electric bill and my water bill, and the $20 I just spent on web hosting. And I gotta somehow come up. I'm hoping springtime I'll be able to sell the. I have a what do you call the for making holes in the ground? Impact hammer. No, what is it? It's like an impact driver hammer, whatever you call it. The thing you to dig into concrete. I have a nice electric one, $1,000 one. I'm hoping I can sell that for enough to pay my property taxes. But yeah, I'll look for your email. If you can give me assistance with that, I'd appreciate it. For you know how to do it. Go from there. But I got to get out of here, or I'm going to miss out on the veggies. So hopefully I'll see you in email, Lightspeed. Thank you very much, and I will see you guys next week.